This podcast is brought to you by the Association for Coaching, an international professional body which is advancing coaching in business and society worldwide. I'm your host, Rob Lawrence. In this new series, I talk to coaches, leaders and experts who share their passion for this incredible profession and their knowledge of how to do marketing well. Our ambition is to contribute to the development of the coaching profession and to bring you some new ideas, insights and strategies so you can create an impact with your coaching and marketing. Today we're going to dispel some of the myths about marketing and help you to find a way to not only get ahead, but to make time for your marketing. My guest today is no stranger to the Association for Coaching podcast, having interviewed her back in April 2021, episode 29, as part of the Boost Your Coaching Business podcast series. Today, I have the great pleasure of introducing you again to marketing consultant and expert Kim Arnold to kick off this new series, Make Time for Your Marketing, which will help you as part of your profession and coaching practice to find new ways to finally take your marketing to the next level. So, Kim, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you again. So before we begin and get stuck in, let's start perhaps with getting clear on what it actually means to do marketing. So I'd love to ask you, Kim, what does marketing mean to you?
It's a really good question. And actually, when you sent this to me before our chat, I really had to stop and think for a moment and actually get all of those buzzwords and jargon and nonsense that you see out there out of my own head and really think about what is it in its essence. And to me, marketing is about showing people how you can help them, and it's really as simple as that.
That's pretty simple and clear. So it's about helping people to understand how we can help them. And I know that there's a minefield out there. I mean, there's a lot of information and how to be marketing and how to market. And there's certainly plenty of marketing gurus, I believe. How do you think we should create and cultivate our own path through what is essentially a hyper-connected world with a tremendous amount of sort of almost information overload out there?
Well, for the record, I don't call myself a marketing guru, thank goodness. But it's really overwhelming for many coaches, for not just coaches, but entrepreneurs, consultants, any small business, anyone without a dedicated marketing team. It can feel incredibly overwhelming. And it's a bit like that phrase, isn't it? If you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And each marketing guru who specialises in a particular type of marketing will tell you that that is the best and only way to do marketing.
So true.
So social media is the answer. Email marketing is the answer. Public speaking is the answer. Paid advertising is the answer. And it's very easy to be convinced by people and think, well, if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing the wrong thing. Or if I'm only doing one thing, I'm not going to succeed. And it really leads to confusion and overwhelm. And I have sympathies myself, even as not a marketing guru, but someone with marketing experience. When I'm marketing my own business, I sometimes fall into that trap when I've just had a chat with someone who's doing something new and interesting. And I think, maybe I should be trying that. And it's very easy not to be constantly pulled in all these different directions. So the market isn't really conducive to a sort of gentle foray into marketing. It's pretty hard these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And that definitely resonates with a lot of people's feelings as I hear them when they think and talk about marketing. And we'll get into some of the sort of tips and mindset of marketing. I'd love to hear your views and thoughts on that in a second. But I think just thinking about the point you were making there a little bit more, and also thinking about how many coaches and those that work with coaching feel about marketing themselves and marketing their brands and their businesses. I mean, there are some out there that really hate marketing. And I think partly because of what you were describing there, it's the overwhelm, it's all the different ways, the myriad of different ways of doing it. For those that really struggle with this stuff, Kim, what are their options? Do they have any other choices? Do you have to market? What's the situation there?
Well, the most important thing when it comes to marketing is to be very clear about what you want it to do. So what kind of business do you actually want to have? Is it a lifestyle business? Money isn't the most important thing, but fitting it around your kids or your hobbies or your travel, that's most important. So that's great. Not everyone has to have a 6-figure coaching business, as much as you might see that online. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely fine. But likewise, if you want to really grow your business and turn it into something bigger, maybe take on your own associates, then you need to be really clear about that. Because if it is the lifestyle business, maybe an associate model is the right thing for you. That you don't have, want to go out there and do the marketing, then get someone else to do it for you. Yes, you take a hit on your fees, but maybe that's the right path. So having that clarity about what is it that I'm trying to build here before you even get to the marketing. How much money do I want or need to earn with my business? Being really upfront and honest with yourself about all these things makes a huge difference, because often and I work with a lot of coaches on my one-to-one program, and they'll come to me and they'll say things like, well, should I be doing social media or should I be doing, public speaking? And I'll say, well, what do you need it to do? And who are you trying to target? And then it's like, well, I don't quite know. So often we're building marketing on sand. It's like building a house without solid foundation. So yes, absolutely. To answer your question, there are other options. And if you're honest with yourself, they might be really attractive ones. But if they're not, if you have, big ambitions or you really want to target a particular type of client, then really marketing is going to be important to you. Unfortunately, you don't get to be a coach without clients. I know that sounds really, really obvious, but we have to get clients. And so we really need to see running a business as part of the deal of being a coach. It's not one or the other. It's not, well, I'm a coach, so I can't do this other stuff. This is what it is to run a business. You're a business owner. You're not just a coach. So getting that mindset shift can make a big difference to start off with.
Yeah, I love that, Kim. And I think that's a great insight. And that's also a powerful reminder for the rest of us that it almost leans back to our conversation way back with the Boost Your Coaching Business series, where what I was hearing you say there is this is about being strategic and not just tactical in terms of your approach to marketing. So beginning with the end in mind almost, rather than sort of just doing stuff, shiny object syndrome and all of that, just seeing the latest sort of technique or fad or platform or whatever, and then having a go, thinking that's going to lead you to whatever result it is that you believe it's going to lead you to. It's actually getting really clear on what the result is that you want first, and then looking at your opportunities and the options that you've got in terms of getting there.
Absolutely. Don't start with the tactics. You have to start with the right foundations, with that clarity. And particularly if we're new to running a business, we can feel that pressure to sort of get started, get out there.
Yeah.
But if our message isn't clear, if we don't really know who we're trying to attract with our marketing, then we're not going to know whether it's worked or not. So slowing down a bit, just thinking, do I know what it is that I stand for and what I want people to know about me? Do I know who specifically I'm targeting? And no, you can't say all women. It needs to be a bit more focused than that. And then you can think about the strategy. So what's the best way of getting to these people? So if you're targeting mums, then maybe it's Facebook. If you're targeting corporate men, then perhaps it might be another channel. So really tailoring that marketing. And then you can think about your exact tactics afterwards. So yes, just hold your horses. Don't jump in quite so quickly to it. A lot of coaches come to me and they're just so eager and excited to get out there that they've started doing all this stuff, and often it means unraveling it, which is a real shame. So getting all of that down, first of all, putting tons and tons of thought into your website and making that look really great, because that's your calling card, and getting that down first before you try and go out there with too many other things.
What are some of the other sort of common challenges you see coaches facing when they come to you and they're stuck with their marketing, Kim?
Well, it's an interesting one, because there's a bit of a disconnect between what coaches think are the problems and what are actually the problems.
Yeah.
And I absolutely delight in using some of their own coaching strategies with them, which we have a lot of fun with. But typically the problems that they come to me with, I don't have time. So, I just can't make time. I'm too busy. Second one is I don't have the knowledge. I don't know what I'm doing. Marketing's too big and complicated. And then the third one, I'm just really scared of the thought of getting out there. And actually, it often goes way deeper than that. When we dig down, we, really get into it, we find there's all sorts of other things really that are the root cause problems. And that, for example, might be worries around integrity. So a lot of coaches find, I'm trying to help people. I want to do the best possible job that I can. And how does that sit with marketing? So on the one hand, you're trying to persuade people to buy from you. On the other hand, you're trying to be this sort of impartial guide or sounding board to people to help them. And these two worlds really collide, and it can feel quite uncomfortable at times. So we might need to dig into that. The second thing that often we find deep down when we get into those discussions is a feeling that marketing is just a bit grubby. It's a bit like used car salesman. I don't really want to get into that. I wanted to be a coach. I'm not going to get my hands dirty with all that nonsense and those people on LinkedIn who bang on about themselves all the time, and they make me feel a bit queasy. Really, marketing is only for the sort of desperate people, and I don't want to look desperate. So I don't really fancy that. So, stuff like that starts to come out. Then the things that I talked about earlier about lack of direction, what we're trying to do with the marketing. So we don't know where we're going. So it's no wonder that we haven't sort of found the path there. And then the brand stuff. Who am I? What am I trying to say? What's my message? So all of this really is underpinning the sort of symptoms that they might come to me with. I don't have time. I don't know what I'm doing. But actually, the real revelation is that marketing isn't that hard.
Wow.
It really isn't. And when, bright people, and most coaches I love working with coaches, smart, thoughtful, interesting people who really care. Once they get a bit of support from me, a bit of insight, well, not necessarily from me, from other people, or they might find people to follow on social media, they can get into the groove of it quite quickly. But until you've really sort of faced some of these fears head on and really tackled them and sort of made peace with the fact that yes, you do have to market your business, and that's okay. There's lots of people out there, pharmaceutical companies, they might have literally a cure for cancer, but they still have to sell it into hospitals. So we all have however sort of worthy it is that the job that we do, we still have to sell it. We need to make a living, and we have to make people aware of us. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to help them. So getting peace, finding reconciliation between all of those things that we might be feeling, and actually, no, marketing's not grubby. You're not above it. This is just something, unfortunately, that is, as much as you might hate it, is part and parcel of being a coach. And this is just one side of your coaching business. The work that you do with clients is one part of being a coach. The other part of being a coach, one of the other parts, is marketing yourself. Another part is actually sending out invoices.
Yeah.
Really boring stuff. It might be, booking in meetings. It's booking your train tickets potentially to go and see clients. It's all of this stuff. We are now coach business owners. You're not just the work that you do. And when you get your head into that space, then it's like, okay, right, we're in the right mindset now, and we can get stuck in.
Yeah, I hear that. So it's a case of, are we simply coaches, or are we coaches with a business, and a coaching business at that? And if we are, then what is it that we have to do in order to help that business not only move forward, but let's hope thrive? And marketing is a point of that. And I really like your point earlier there, Kim, about, marketing being what you were saying in terms of what marketing means to you, about marketing being a way of helping the people who perhaps need our services find us, making that connection, because it's unlikely that they're going to find us automatically or by chance. I think that's a rare thing, which kind of leads me to a question I'd love to ask you about. I think there's a danger of relying on just referrals, isn't there?
Oh yes. And I would say probably about 80% of coaches do, in my experience. And it seems on paper to be fantastic, doesn't it? Here comes a nice email into my inbox every week saying, oh, I've heard great things about you from so-and-so. Can we chat? And it feels really positive, but it has many downsides, because it's a bit like you are a bystander in your business. You are the passive recipient of work. You are essentially relying on the kindness of strangers to pay your mortgage each month. And when you think about it like that, it's a bit alarming. So you're relying on people, and quite often we're not even asking for those referrals that come in. So there's not even that proactive element to it. So we're beholden to fortune. We don't get to choose our clients. So there is, and so often, my coach clients, they might come back, to me, the catalyst for getting in touch is like, I've just had the worst client of my life. And I took the clients, I took them because I needed the money and I didn't have anything else coming in, or it was a bit of a quiet period. And my gut said, don't take them. But I did because, it was a bit of a dry period and they ran me ragged. And it's a really similar refrain, and we've all done it. I used to do it when I started my business, like, oh, someone likes me. It's great. It's like when you first start, you're at school and the boy comes over to you in the disco. Well, this was me. I went to an all girls school. So we had like a yearly disco with the boys' school. So frankly, if Godzilla had walked across the room and given me some attention at that point, they would have had a dance, from me. And it's a bit like that with clients. We're feeling like, oh, right, I've got to just take this. Whoever comes over to me, I've got to take this on. And it can just be soul destroying when you get a rubbish client. So I've learned, this is experience talking, that it's never worthwhile to take that kind of clients who make your life a misery or just suck all your energy out of you. Those sort of energy vampires that just leave you feeling completely drained. So we don't get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And it often means that we keep doing what we're doing. So we don't have a choice about what direction we're going in. So, for example, if you are doing one-to-one coaching with clients who self-fund, you might want to also work with corporates, but that corporate work is probably never going to come from your, those one-to-one clients. It might do if you're lucky, but those two worlds are probably going to stay quite far apart. Or, for example, if you mainly work in a particular industry or sector, say you really, all of your market, your coaching clients are in the third sector, and I've had this experience with my clients, it doesn't pay brilliantly and you want to up your rate, so you want to supplement that with other industries who might pay a bit better. Well, all your referral work is going to come from third sector because that's where people know you from, and you've built that name for yourself. So that's the other problem. We're passive. We have to sort of take what's given to us. We are often stuck in a certain field and it becomes very hard then to flex. We don't get to create our own narrative as well, which I think is really important. So if you decide that and this happens when we start a business, and our brand can really evolve over the years. So it might be that you start talking about yourself as a leadership coach, but actually you end up thinking, well, really, I want to specialize as a career coach. But then everyone's still calling you a leadership coach, and that's the work that comes in. So you can be stuck again in that bucket because you don't have that chance to create your own narrative. More negatives. There are so many, actually. We're in constant feast or famine, that roller coaster ride of, oh, I've got too much work, or I haven't got enough work. And that is not the only way to run your business. It is possible to have a steady stream of leads that come in, and feel more secure about your pipeline. So it's horrible. No one likes waking up at 3 a.m. worrying about money. It's a really horrible experience, and particularly when you start off your business, it can feel really, really precarious. So being passive in your marketing is not a strategy, unless, again, most of your work comes from associate work, and then you're just happy to supplement on the side. And if that works for you, brilliant. But if it doesn't, don't perpetuate that passiveness. Every coach can do marketing. It is genuinely not that hard, and I've got lots of tips to help you sort of find your own way with it. But every coach can do it. It really, coaching is far harder than marketing. I guarantee that.
Yeah. Well, that's reassuring. So yeah, let's flip the coin there then, Kim. I'd love to ask you about some of the tips that you've got and the approaches. But before we get into that, tell me about the reality of good marketing. When you're working with people and you see them marketing well, what's that reality look like?
It's people who show up regularly. They create an expectation that they will be visible in a certain place regularly, or on a certain platform, or saying a certain thing. There is that expectation. It's consistency. And that really is the most important thing in marketing, is consistency. You have clarity of message and you keep repeating it. And it's really undervalued. And the problem is, I think, as you mentioned, we talked about this in the last podcast, quite often we're flipping. We're flipping from, I'll try this for a bit, or it didn't really work. I'll try this for a bit, didn't really work. And we're not giving anything long enough to really take hold. Most marketing takes 3 to 6 months to bear fruit. It's quite a long time. So mostly we're giving up too soon, or we're just not being consistent. So, I'm going to start a video series, and week 1 we do really well, week 2 we do really well, week 3 it's a bit late. Maybe I'll go to fortnightly. So I'm going to do it fortnightly now, and okay, we do a couple of fortnightly. Oh god, a whole load of client work's come in. I'm going to do monthly. And then it just, then suddenly 6 months have gone past and nothing's happened. So consistently showing up is really important. And it is far more important than the sophistication or sexiness of what you put out there. You could literally go on LinkedIn every day and say, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And that might have more impact than a, beautifully thought out once a year white paper. Maybe I'm taking that to the extremes, but that's the idea. So we tend to, particularly perfectionists, we want it all to be absolutely perfect. We agonize over it, but little and often being consistent, showing up is vitally important.
That's great, Kim. What other tips have you got in terms of actually executing on the marketing? So you've got a really good understanding and insight there of how coaches are getting stuck with this stuff, and understandably so, with the amount of information that's out there, and almost seems overwhelming actually in terms of where to start with your marketing. So what would your advice, your guidance be in terms of, for those that have got stuck, that have perhaps experienced some of what you're describing there, where they've started and now they've stopped, and they've started again and stopped again, or maybe those that are actually saying, I've been coaching for a while now, but I really haven't paid any attention to my marketing, the marketing side of my coaching business. What's a good place to start? What do you see working really well, Kim?
So number one, you're going to make the time. And I say make time, not find time. So this is about flipping how you structure your days, weeks, months around. So typically what most coaches do is book in all the client work and then they fit the marketing around it. And guess what happens? The client work expands to fill the space, and the marketing doesn't get done, or it gets done in like the scraps of time at the end of the day. When they're really tired, and I've got 20 minutes here, and of course your head's not going to be in the right space. So marketing time has to be sacred. That goes into your calendar at a regular time each week, and it is sacred. You do not do client work on a Monday morning or a Friday morning or a Wednesday morning or whatever. That just doesn't happen. So in your head that time does not get touched. It doesn't get touched for anything else either. Errands, putting the laundry on, dentist appointments, nothing touches that. If you need to move something, your client work gets moved, and you need to be so ruthless. Eventually over time that will become like a muscle, and you will understand the importance, but at first you have to be really strict. It's like a bit of a diet where you have to do those crazy diets where you need to do the really extreme phase at the beginning. But that's what you need to do with your marketing. So get into your head that marketing your business is more important than client work. And your listeners might be thinking, she's lost it. She's got a screw loose. This is crazy. But once you start thinking first and foremost like a business owner and a marketer, then you get to love the work you do. You become a better coach. You have better clients coming in. You have more time and space to think about them, because you're not just grabbing all these scraps of work every here and there. You get to put your prices up because you become more of a valuable commodity. So everything starts with building out this time. So number one,
brilliant,
make time. Then it's about getting those foundations right. So you're making the time, then it's the foundation. So brand, who am I? What do I stand for? Target market, and how best to get in touch with them. So when you know those things, then you've got all of the right foundations in place. One of the biggest mistakes that I see coaches make with their marketing is a mismatch between their marketing strategy and their target market. So they're saying, well, I'm posting on Instagram every day, but nothing's happening. Meanwhile, their target market is actually not on social media, or is on LinkedIn and not Instagram. So doing a bit of research, finding out where people hang out, and that is literally you can ask people, have a little survey of your clients. What do you read? What influences you? Do you like consuming information by video? Do you go on YouTube? What conferences do you go to? What trade magazines do you read? Do you use email? Do you use Slack for your messaging? Just get to know them a bit more. So it's as simple as that. So once you then have got that clarity, you can think about, okay, what are the right marketing strategies? And don't choose any more than 3. Otherwise you will, unless you have a secret little posse of marketers hiding under your desk, you'll get really overwhelmed. And I say this, for my own business as well. So I use primarily, my primary channels are my email newsletter, social media, and networking. So networking and speaking, I kind of bundle those together. But those really are my three channels. So, and even within social media, I don't do everything. So I only do a little bit on Facebook and Twitter, but actually Instagram and LinkedIn are my primary channels. So we're really, really focused. I don't do paid advertising. I don't do lots and lots of things that other people do to win business. So you have to be very ruthless, and that clarity helps. So you're better off doing less, choosing a couple of channels, and then just being incredibly consistent with them. So that would really be the next step. So then the next is thinking about what you can outsource. So there's a lot of admin associated with marketing. So if you can afford it, think about a virtual assistant to handle some of the kind of back end of your marketing. So, for example, one of my coach clients uses her VA to set up her email newsletter. So she'll write it, send her VA a Word document. Then the VA will set it all up, make it look nice and send it out, manage the lists, all of that good stuff. She'll also help her find speaking opportunities. She does a lot of research for her. She helps her with her PowerPoint presentation. So there's a lot of the sort of admin stuff we can outsource. And then finally, rinse and repeat. So if you create a blog, don't just put it on your website once. People won't see it. Or if they do see it, they won't necessarily remember it. So cut it up into social media posts. You can turn it into a video. You can send it out as an email newsletter. You can post it as an article on LinkedIn. You can chop it up into little bite-sized tips, a tip checklist. So reuse, recycle all of the stuff that you do, because you might think that everyone's seen it, but they really haven't.
4 fabulous tips there, Kim. And I particularly love your first 2, where I think for many coaches, it will almost be counterintuitive, because I feel that and this has definitely been true for my own journey. So I'm sort of acknowledging my own bias here, which is where you feel you've got to get the foundations right first, and then you'll make the time for it. But what I heard there, which I thought was really powerful, is actually you've got to make time for it. And maybe as soon as you can start making time for it, you can use that time to figure out the foundations and then start finding out the right strategies for you to move forward.
And it's amazing if we're really honest with ourselves, because quite often when I say to my clients, look, you need at least half a day on marketing, ideally a day a week on marketing, they think I'm crazy and they sort of fall off their chair and they think I can't possibly do that. But when you carve it out and it's sacred and it doesn't get touched, somehow everything else just rolls along as it used to, and you just do it a bit more efficiently in slightly less time.
Yeah.
So the work expands to fit the space, doesn't it? Always. That one. It's like packing for going on holiday. If I have a large suitcase, I will fill it full, regardless of whether I actually need all that stuff or not. We pack it full. So finding time first is so important, and then it's like giving yourself permission as well to say, no, this is really important to me. I want to make a success of my business. I don't want to, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, But if you do want to focus on your marketing, think of all those hours that you spend beating yourself up about it. It's like if you're trying to be on a diet and you're eating really badly, and you think, oh God, I really hate myself, I've just had another burger. And it's a bit like that with your marketing. You should be doing it. It's not like the worry's going away. It's still there in the back of your mind. And think of all the time and energy that's draining out of you.
Yeah.
So to have that time, think about, and I love using my clients' coaching strategies for themselves. And it is, okay, what would you advise a client who is procrastinating with something? What would you tell them? If you would give yourself advice in this situation, we've addressed some of these deeper issues. So what's stopping you from moving forward? Why aren't you carving out this time for something that you know is really important? What else is at play here? So much of it is psychological rather than practical as a barrier.
Yeah. And just on that, Kim, I mean, how do you help your clients to fall in love with their marketing again and make it a fun task to do every day? What's the hack there for you? Because we were talking about making that time, but I hear your point. I think that's where we can end up procrastinating sometimes. We'll put the time aside, but then we'll fill it with something else. And because of all of the things that you've touched upon earlier, fear or whatever it is, how do you make it fun again? What's the sort of simple hack there from your point of view?
Well, I think it can be very lonely as a business owner, a solo business owner, a solopreneur, a coach, consultant, whatever you do. And finding someone to go on the journey with can help hugely. Particularly if you might have come from a corporate background where you're used to being in a team and you're used to sort of focusing on one discipline, and then suddenly now you've got to be jack of all trades. You've got to be the marketer and the finance person and the salesperson and all those things.
Yeah.
So find someone to go on that journey with you. It might be another coach, it might be another business owner, it might be just someone who can be that sounding board and who you can share some of those highs and lows with, because that can be really hard as well when you get that gig, that client who says yes to you, or the organization that just signs you up for a whole program, and you're there going, I'm so happy, and you're sitting there in your home office on your own, and that can really affect our mood. So having someone to be a cheerleader with you, where whether that's a sort of business coach like me, or it's another coach who's in the same field as you, take someone on the journey, because also then that creates accountability, and that's much of my role is around accountability. So yeah, you can share all of your highs with me. You can have a massive moan as well, because we all like to do that. A lot of swearing as well when things are hard.
Yeah.
So sharing all of that makes a huge difference. And I think we underestimate that, particularly during the pandemic. We're just not having that interaction. And so we internalize. And it's like, oh, this feels really hard. And doing really hard things, and it can be, I'm saying marketing's easy, but it doesn't always feel easy if you're doing it on your own. So sitting there in a room doing hard things sucks. It really sucks. So finding ways to share that, and also understanding what motivates you.
Yeah.
So for me, I have financial targets because I'm not ashamed. I'm very motivated by how much I make, because that helps me help my kids. It helps me do interesting things. It helps me help aging parents and all sorts of things that I really care about. Yeah. So that's a huge motivator for me. And so having those very specific targets. So for example, some of my clients might say, right, I really want to bring that client on because then that will pay for this trip, or that will pay for me to take my mum out for cream tea at Claridge's.
Yeah.
And so putting some specific goals, very visible goals, again, use those coaching techniques. It might be a vision board. It might be a date in the diary where it's like, okay, if I reach this point and I've brought in X many clients, then I'm going to book tickets to go and see Adele, or whatever it is. Give yourself incentives. Make it fun. Have crazy, I call them blitz days as well, where you just focus on marketing and you go all out. So I still do this. I do it once a month with my own business. I put on some great music, I got my lipstick on, and I go for it. Mm-hmm. And I just say, right, I'm going to get in touch with as many people as I can in the next 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So email, LinkedIn, social media, picking up the phone, and it's just a big burst of energy that makes me feel fantastic. And inevitably out of it, I'll probably get 5 or 6 coffee meetings, and then that leads to more work. So give yourself time just to have fun with it. Not everything needs to be a massive marketing campaign. It can be as simple as sending out some emails to people that you haven't spoken to in a while, reconnecting with some old clients that you haven't spoken to in a while. So all of that stuff is as important as well. It doesn't have to be a 10-step marketing campaign with a white paper and a video and a this and that. It can be as simple as reaching out to people.
Some great tips there, Kim. I love that. I really like your tip there about finding someone to go on the journey with, and back to your earlier point and your third tip from those 4 tips earlier about having someone support you, a VA. I know that can in itself can give you some accountability as well as working with someone like a coach. And I particularly like that idea of, almost drinking our own medicine here as coaches and thinking about what motivates us. And I think so much of this is about finding the right sort of marketing that works for you. And that may be where a lot of coaches get stuck. I don't know. It's where they're actually sort of trying on all these hats that don't fit, which is what they see online. And I think with that in mind, actually, Kim, something you mentioned earlier about picking 3 things that work well for you. And you mentioned in there your email newsletter, which reminded me, and by the way, listeners, Kim has an amazing email newsletter, so I highly recommend you go to Kim Arnold's website and subscribe there. It's a really good read. Just with that in mind, you reminded me, Kim, that marketing isn't just about social media, and sometimes we've got our own preconceptions about what marketing is, but there's all sorts of different ways that we could be marketing. I know something that you've taught me is actually one of the things that I still practice daily is just reaching out to people directly and individually, and that's actually marketing, isn't it?
Yes. Sending an email to someone is marketing. It's amazing. Yeah, and you make a great point about finding your own groove in marketing, and it is about capitalizing on your strengths. If you are dyslexic and you find writing really burdensome, don't do a newsletter. Don't force yourself down that route if that's something that you might struggle with, for example. You might be great in front of camera. Doing videos might be your approach. But absolutely don't forget what is under your nose. And I did actually a program with the AC a few years ago on lead generation. And it's amazing how many coaches go out there and they do all this sort of fancy and complicated before they've done the easy, free stuff that's right there. And most coaches will get the best clients from their network rather than cold clients coming in through social media. And that's because it might be a referral. It will be people who know you or know of you, and that's why I use an email newsletter, because when people are on my list, they might have been on my list for a year or 2 years before they get in touch, but when they do, they're ready to buy from me. It's like, right, I feel like I know you, Kim. You've been in my inbox every week. You've made me laugh. You've made me think, yeah, let's have that conversation about your one-to-one program. And actually their mind is set. They feel that there's a relationship there already. So yeah, social media is one of many marketing tools, and we do put I think, often too much emphasis on it, because essentially it's broadcast. And it's quite hard to be very targeted on social media, whereas other tools like reaching out directly to people, being really rigorous about putting those coffees in the diary, virtual ones or in-person ones. I think we've all got out of the habit of that as well during the pandemic. I really noticed that myself, in fact, that because we weren't physically going out there and seeing people, wasn't doing a really great job about keeping in touch. So then made a real concerted effort just to drop people in line and say, hey, look, do you want to just hop on a 20-minute Zoom with a cuppa? And make it feel very laid back, very non-pushy, non-salesy, and just reconnect with people. And getting into that habit again, for me personally, has been great, and something my coach clients as well have found really useful, is just being quite consistent about that.
Yeah, so it's taking a proactive approach, isn't it there, Kim, to your point earlier about passively marketing, I suppose, and waiting for the referrals to come in. Who could you be reaching out to each day, perhaps, picking 1 to 3 people maybe, and just getting in touch with them, reconnecting? It doesn't have to be the hard sell. It just has to be a reconnection, which can lead to another conversation, which could lead to another conversation, or maybe another referral or some new opportunities or ideas. So this new series is all about making time for your marketing, Kim. Given that conversation today, is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there anything I've missed here that we should be thinking about from a marketing perspective?
I think just be kind to yourself. Don't expect to get it all perfect right at the beginning. And actually, one of my recent clients, Maria, who went through my program with me, has just been a wonderful example of just getting out there and giving it a go. And she's very open and vulnerable. She, on Instagram going, right, this is my first video, guys, sorry if it's a bit wobbly, but I'm making an effort to get out there and do it. And she's just grown with confidence over time and really found her voice. And quite often you learn by doing, and you learn how to do things. I mean, my early blogs were pretty awful, my early newsletters. I'm not proud of them. But they help make me the writer that I am today. And so just get stuck in, decide on the 1 or 2 things, 1, 2, 3 things that you're going to do, and just start dipping your toe in the water. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about everything riding on this one thing. Just get started. And once you do that, you'll start to feel a bit more confident. And then when things start to work, then you'll want to do them more. So you get into it, can be a really virtuous circle once you get started. So get out there, give it a go.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So this is about starting small, slowly building your confidence over time, and just being kind to yourself and learning by doing. It's going to be one of those things. We'll find what's successful for us by trying, won't we? So, and on that theme, just before we wrap up, Kim, what's working really well for you? How do you improve your own marketing? What do you do to support your own marketing at the level that you're at now?
It's constantly evolving, I would say. It's like having a sort of stable core that other things can revolve around. So maybe the planets around, I don't know, the Earth around the sun or something. Find a metaphor to do that. But it's finding that core that sort of stays the same, and then you can experiment around that. So for me, the constant is my newsletter and reaching out to people in my network. And those 2 things have brought me more business than social media. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. But it is then having check-ins every 6 months. And I find that sometimes my business changes without me noticing it. And a lot of this happens to a lot of my clients too, that they find that they might have been doing one type of coaching work, but actually one client wanted to do a workshop on something slightly different, and you did it, and actually it went quite well. And then another client's asked you to do that. And actually then quite a lot of your work is doing that. but your website doesn't say any of that stuff and you don't mention it in your marketing. So I would say every 6 months, and I do this summer and Christmas for me. I sort of wind down a bit of my client work in the summer just to give myself a bit of headspace to be sort of work on my business. But just to sit down and I clear a day and I'll go somewhere nice. Often go to the British Library and have a change of scene. And I just sit there and just think about, okay, well, what's happening in my business at the moment, and are my clients who my clients were 6 months ago, and who have I been doing work with, and are they the same kind of clients that I want going forward, and what work have I done with them, with one client, that I might be able to sell to another client, and just really have that clarity, and then think, okay, well, what do I need to do? Right, typically it's refresh my website. There's a bit of tweaking to be done, a bit of wording here and there. It might be, right, actually I could do with some materials to help promote a certain area, or it might be, well, actually no, I need to really get out there and start talking about more of the work that I'm doing. So twice yearly check-ins to ground all of your marketing, and then you can go, great, now I know what I'm doing for the next 6 months. So planning ahead. And the second thing really is routine. I'm a bit of not a massively spontaneous person. I love adventure, but I like to do it in sort of with safety rails. So for me, it's about having a bit of a routine so that I'm not trying to do something new and different every week. I know I'm doing my newsletter every week. I know I'm reaching out to people every week, and I know I'm posting on social media every week. So that just takes a bit of the stress out of marketing for me as well, that it just becomes second nature. That's something I do every week. So that's a really helpful point for me as well, and just something that I've grown over the years. And it's also then very helpful when you want to outsource, because you're not having to constantly update someone else. Oh, this is happening this week, or this is happening next week. It just goes ahead. So yeah, checking in, making sure you're on the right track, and then just rinse and repeat. Keep on with that routine, and then that just creates a sense of calm order, as much as there can be any calm order in this world of ours at the moment, particularly not with my kids are breaking up from school for 8 weeks from tomorrow. So I use calm order with a huge caveat, lots of small fine print underneath that.
Absolutely, Kim, absolutely. I think any calm and order we can bring into our lives is always welcome, and particularly if we can do that with our marketing too. Well, Kim, it's been wonderful to reconnect with you and have you back onto the podcast series again. Where can our listener connect with you and find out more about you? It might be the first time that they've ever stumbled across Kim Arnold. I can't believe it, but that could be the case. And what resources would you recommend to our listener in terms of helping them along with some of the stuff that we've been talking about today?
So, yeah, I mean, God forbid anyone hasn't heard of me already. Outrageous. So if they want to head on over to my website, it's kimarnold.co.uk. You can sign up to my newsletter there, so you get that into your inbox every week, talking about personal brand, communication, marketing, email writing, all sorts of good stuff. All of my back copies of my newsletter are on my blog, on my newsletter, on my website. So there's 5-6 years worth on there. So lots and lots and lots of tips that you can get a hold of. Do connect with me on LinkedIn as well. That's where I hang out. And I'm also on Instagram, Words Done Well on Instagram. So you can follow me in all of those places. I would definitely advise people to start reading. Find those good marketing books. There's a great one called Watertight Marketing by Brian E. Thomas. That's probably my favourite marketing handbook. It's designed for small business owners. I think it's a really great one. My own book, Email Attraction, is about how to write really great emails. So not necessarily marketing emails, but the emails that you send every day. And that will help you with your emails to reach out to new people as well. So lots of different options there. And if anyone wants to find out about my one-to-one program, my Mighty Marketing Mojo program, they can drop me a line at kim@kimarnold.co.uk.
So that's kimarnold.co.uk. Thanks ever so much for that, Kim. And I can say that I've been on your Mojo programme and that was brilliant. And I also proud owner of your fabulous book, which arrived in its yellow jiffy bag when you published it during the pandemic. So that's highly recommended too. Kim, thanks ever so much for your time today and spending time with us today and sharing your tips as ever. You've been a great guest and this has just been a wonderful insight and first episode to this new series. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. I'm Rob Lawrence. For 20 years, the AC's purpose has been to inspire and champion coaching excellence, advance the coaching profession, and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations, and societies worldwide. To find out more about the Association for Coaching and our member benefits, follow us on LinkedIn or explore our website at associationforcoaching.com. You can keep up to date with our latest podcast episodes, enjoy the wealth of digital learning offerings, and gain insights from our Coaching Perspectives magazine.